Alrighty, yo, what is going on everybody? It's your boy Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. Today we're going to react to the greatest NBA 2K game of all time. And I think we know what this one is, because it's the only game we haven't touched on yet. It's the only 2K we haven't touched on yet in this soft drink TV reactions. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
You took flight.
Yes, sir.
Rose above all. You changed the game and became a legend.
You goddamn right.
It's pretty fitting that Michael Jordan was on the cover of the greatest NBA 2K game. Now, I can see the argument for any 2K from 2K11 through 2K16 being the best, but when you look at the impact, the hype, and the overall package 2K11 brought to the table in October of 2010, I don't see how it could be topped. Of course, a decade later, the gameplay and graphics of 2K11 are outdated, and it's missing some popular additions that were later added in other 2K games such as Park and My Team. But when you look at 2K11 in its prime, when the game was the newest and greatest basketball game that had ever released, the energy surrounding the game has yet to be replicated by another 2K's release since. This is the game that ended NBA Live's chances at market control.
Facts.
The game that took my player to the next level, the first 2K to have classic teams and players.
Yep.
Gameplay that revolutionized basketball video games. No VC, no microtransactions, a legendary soundtrack.
Yes.
The game that built the foundation for 2K's rise to the top.
Yep.
This is the NBA 2K game that left behind a legacy. NBA 2K11 laid down the groundwork for 2K's domination. This was the same year EA nearly released NBA Elite 11. The bar really wasn't high at all. If 2K simply took NBA 2K10, a great game in its own right, and updated the rosters, 2K11 would still have been a massive success. However, even without real competition, Visual Concepts took it upon themselves to innovate further and push the envelope of what a basketball game could be.
Nah. What happened was EA pissed Mike Wang off. Mike Wang said, fuck y'all, I'm going back to 2K, and brought that heat with him to 2K and put NBA Live out of their fucking misery, as he should have.
Operation Sports voted NBA 2K11 as the greatest sports video game of the decade.
Facts.
Noting that NBA 2K11 was a turning point for basketball video games. It was simultaneously the beginning of the end for the NBA Live series, and the start of the true rise of the NBA 2K series. It was the game where people seemed to realize that NBA 2K was not just out there to make the next yearly basketball game, but rather become a series that was a love letter to the NBA as a whole.
Facts.
In an era where sports games feel regurgitated in simply a roster update year after year, 2K11 felt different. This is noticeable from your first time booting up the game. It throws you into Michael Jordan's first appearance in the NBA Finals, going against a dominant Lakers team led by Magic Johnson. This game felt like a time capsule of NBA history. This wasn't just a video game, this was an experience.
Facts.
Unprecedented at the time, the game featured classic teams that were actually licensed. In older sports games, historic teams did exist, but they had generic players filling up the teams. 2K11 actually got the rights to the players making up these teams, got their faces scanned into the game, and immortalized these teams and players forever, allowing people to experience an older era of the sport in a way that most never would have seen coming. This is a feature that many take for granted today, as NBA 2K continuously adds new historic teams year after year, but 2K11 introducing classic teams was a game changer. The game's featured mode was the Jordan Challenge mode, where players could play through the most iconic moments in Michael Jordan's career. Not only did each moment have accurate teams and players, but those players actually looked and played like their real-life counterparts did. These historic players had their own signature animations that brought them to life. Anyone who watched basketball in the 80s or 90s would have immediately been able to tell which player was which. The commentary and presentation was another insane detail to this mode. The announcers would actually talk throughout each moment as if it was happening in real time. Doris Burke would mention that a certain player who missed that specific game due to injury couldn't play that night. Kevin Harlan would mention Jordan's specific struggles against a certain team or player, or talk about matchups to watch. If you actually made 6 threes against the Trailblazers, Michael Jordan's player model would actually shrug. Playing these moments made you feel like you were actually there, in that era, and it was magical. It's just one small feature that makes NBA 2K11 so great, but it really did push the genre forward. Sports games could be so much more than a mere video game. They could be time machines. The Jordan Challenge was actually pretty difficult, which made the player respect just how insane Michael Jordan was in his prime. It wasn't easy to average 11 assists over an entire NBA Finals series, or drop 69 points in one game. Other 2K games have had similar modes with their cover athletes, but 2K11 was the first. The hype behind this game and the game mode was insane, as this was the first 2K game to have Michael Jordan in the game since he retired. An expected afterthought today, seeing MJ along with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Patrick Ewing, and Karl Malone recreated in a video game for the first time was special. After completing the 10 challenges, you unlock a rookie Michael Jordan to use in the career mode My Player, and you can then see how Michael Jordan's career could have turned out if he joined the NBA in 2010. Speaking of My Player, this was the second year of the game mode as 2K10 introduced the game-changing career mode in the previous year. Not much changed, but compared to the grand movie like My Career we see today, it's almost refreshing to go back and play this older version of My Player. It's simple and to the point. You start out as a D-League scrub and work your way through your career trying to leave the best legacy you can. You won't be locked into long cutscenes with bad acting, and you won't find the mode to be a tedious grind meant to push the player into buying VC. Instead, you'll find that this mode existed for one reason: to be fun. Don't get me wrong, it was still a deep game mode, however, especially compared to other sports games. Post-game press conferences meant something, as certain answers to certain questions could lead to teammates refusing to pass you the ball, or even the crowd chanting, "Trade him." But it wasn't full of flashy filler, it was just basketball. And I think a lot of people today would prefer that. A game mode connected to My Player that was exclusive to 2K11 was the Crew mode, allowing users to team up with other My Players online, create a team, and play online against other crews.
Yep.
People miss this mode a lot, as it was kind of like Pro-Am, but with better matchmaking and more control over how your team's roster is filled out. There wasn't a...
It was, but the servers though, man. 2K servers around this time was terrible, bruh. I'm telling y'all, bruh, y'all better be happy with the servers y'all got now. Cause back then, them servers, them 2K11, 2K10, 2K9 servers, I'm telling you, bro, them servers are terrible, bro.
A park in 2K11, but some people might find that to be a positive. While the park is an insanely colossal and creative undertaking that no other sports game even has a comparable game mode to, it was a no-brainer for 2K to monetize the mode and make it pay to win, which effectively made it a negative for many people. The same goes for My Team. The Association mode was the game's My League or franchise mode, and it was super deep. In fact, NBA 2K11's Association mode is deeper than the franchise mode in any 2020 sports game besides 2K. From Madden to FIFA to NHL to MLB The Show. 2K was so ahead of the curve back then. With NBA Elite 11 cancelled, NBA Live fans who bought the game and stumbled upon this mode were amazed at the level of detail, depth, and immersion. You could control and play through the D-League, you had complete stat tracking from the Hall of Fame, to team records, to player records, to league records. The game mode was an NBA database that grew with your fictional universe. The presentation of 2K11 was fantastic as well. While EA held the ESPN license that they stole from 2K back in 2004, 2K delivered a better and more realistic presentation with a TNT-inspired broadcast. The crowd stands up and reacts during these moments. The sideline reporting of Doris Burke adds immersion and storylines to the game, while Kevin Harlan and Clark Kellogg do a great job at sounding authentic. The halftime show was phenomenal. If you were playing 2K11 and someone walked into the room, they might have thought you were watching a real game. Of course, 2K's presentation has improved since 2K11, but this game set the foundation. It blew away every other sports game. Gameplay was a massive improvement over 2K10. Defense was overhauled completely, and it shows. The game wasn't as easy as people were used to. You can't simply hold sprint and drive to the rim like you could in 2K10 or NBA Live. You had to play basketball by passing the ball, setting screens, and using plays to get an open shot. If you don't know how to run a playbook, you better play on Rookie. Even playing today, the AI awareness of the defenders is impressive. This was the first 2K to put pick and roll on the left bumper rather than on B or circle, which was a lot smoother and easier to run. The game released with 10,000 new animations, and almost every player had their own signature ones. Player movement and momentum is fluid and realistic, and while the gameplay may feel a bit aged today, for its time it was unprecedented. The game's soundtrack was amazing. This is pretty much unanimous, from hits like Over by Drake to hype music like Serious by the Alan Parsons Project, to underrated catchy songs like So Far by the Redland. This soundtrack slapped. It wouldn't be a great sports game without a great soundtrack. In the description I put a link to a playlist of the soundtrack if you want to go check it out. A few other features in this game were the Situation Mode, which is a game mode I wish we saw in current sports games. This mode allowed you to pick two teams and create a scenario to jump into. You'd set the score, time left, etc., and then jump into it. The game also had a cool feature where after each game you'd see a slideshow of screenshots the game took for you, showing the best moments from the game in cool camera angles. Beating someone online and then sending them the screenshot of you posterizing them was awesome. The game also featured a full customization suite for creating a team, which was very in-depth for 2010. Later 2Ks have improved upon this, however, by allowing users to upload any image into the game for logos and patches. But having a team creation suite is something that's easy to take for granted, and 2K11 having it in the game is worth noting. NBA 2K11 set the stage for one of the most impressive runs in the history of sports video games. From 2K11 to 2K16, 2K was pushing the bar higher and higher and creating games that were actually worth the upgrade each year. Where other sports games were busy reinventing the wheel each year and losing features, 2K started building upon a foundation that only grew stronger each year. Today's 2K games, while riddled with microtransactions and server issues, are still incredibly deep and destroy games like NBA Live, FIFA, or Madden because of the strong foundation 2K11 started that culminated with NBA 2K16. Michael Jordan was the perfect cover athlete for 2K11 because, like MJ, 2K11 was the best. For its time, the gameplay was incredible. The game modes were deep and fleshed out, and the new features and innovations took the game from great to legendary. It was everything you wanted in a sports game and then some. NBA 2K11 was not just a video game. It was an NBA experience created by people who loved basketball. We may never again see the same type of drive and passion in the creation of a sports game that Visual Concepts showed in 2K11. Like Jordan, the game has aged, but no one can deny that in its prime, the game was spectacular. The greatest of all time.
So yeah, man, that's just gonna about do it for this one, man. This is the greatest NBA 2K game of all time, hands down. 2K11. If you wasn't around when this game first came out, I don't know what to tell you, brother. You missed out on something amazing. This is truly the greatest NBA 2K ever made, hands down. When I get me a PlayStation 3, I guarantee y'all we gonna hop on this and do our thing on it. But anyways, though, that's just gonna about do it for this one. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section below. I'll get back to you. Till then, peace out.